Hey y'all, hey, and welcome to John Conclusions with me, Tristyn B. So this week we're actually going to have two videos. This first video is going to be a update video of one of our older cases, and then the second video is going to be your usual murder mystery with a masterpiece that you get on Fridays. So this video I wanted to update the Tristyn Bailey case that we did 2 or 3 weeks ago. There has been some recent developments, updates, whatnot, as we are preparing for the trial of Aiden Fucci. And I just wanted to stop by and give y'all those updates. Let's get into it. So as I'm sure you guys remember, Tristyn Bailey was a 13-year-old cheerleader who was reported missing by her mother on Mother's Day. Later on that evening, she was found, her body was found not too far from her home, actually, next to a retention pond. The day following the discovery of her body, 14-year-old Aiden Fucci was arrested and made several incriminating admissions while he was being interrogated, including that he had been walking on North Durban Parkway and that he had argued with Tristyn that night. And if you remember, North Durban Parkway is the street that they were seen walking on the surveillance camera that was by like a some kind of center or something that was near the neighborhood where they both lived. They were seen on camera walking through there at like 1:30 in the morning. An hour or two later, Aiden was seen walking back in the other direction, back towards their homes on that same camera, but without Tristyn. He was walking alone at this point and was carrying a pair of shoes in his hand. When he was being interrogated, he did admit that he was on that road. He was, that was him on the videotape. And also he admitted to having an altercation with Tristyn, which of course, the police did not know beforehand. He stated that during this argument, he forcibly pushed Tristyn, which caused her to lose her footing, and she fell and hit her head on the ground. And I'm guessing he just left her there in this story. We know that his clothing was found, the clothing that he was seen wearing in that video was found in his home, and Tristyn's blood was later found to be on those articles of clothing. Authorities also found a hunting knife that was believed to be Aiden's in that retention pond that Tristyn's body was found near. Now, if you remember, there was a dive team like a day or two after her body was found. There was a dive team that was seen searching that pond. And I knew the murder weapon was going to be in there because, why wouldn't it be? It's a very convenient place to put it. And as a child, that's most likely not something that he would be, thinking about, that it would be found that easily. But, as adults and murder mystery enthusiasts, we know that that's the most obvious place to throw the murder weapon. You murder her beside the pond and just toss the knife in there as you're walking home. It made sense to me. The tip of that knife was found in Tristyn's body when they did the autopsy, and the knife that they found in the pond was missing the tip. So that further connected the two. And the knife that they found, several of Aiden's friends said that that's the knife, or it resembled, they thought it could have been the knife that he was known to carry around. It looked just like it, and they were able to identify it as Aiden's knife, which further connects the knife to him and to Tristyn. Now, while they were interviewing Aiden, they found out that several of Aiden's friends had talked to him in the days before the murder, and he had stated to them that he wanted to take someone into the woods and stab them to death. And that's not a direct quote, but that's exactly what he ended up doing. They did state that he never made mention of Tristyn specifically or pointed out one person that he wanted to do this to, but that he had his mind and heart set on taking somebody back into those woods and killing them. And it seems like maybe Tristyn was just a convenient victim, someone that he knew he was able to get out of the house in order to do this, being that they did go to the same school, they lived in the same neighborhood, and they also are said to have been friends. So it may have just been a wrong place, wrong time type thing versus a murder premeditated against her, because now that we know that he was talking about this in the days leading up, it is most definitely a premeditated murder, but it doesn't seem like he specifically targeted Tristyn. It seems more like the opportunity arose. It seems more like the opportunity arose and he just took it. So, following the complete autopsy, State Attorney R.J. Larissa reported that Tristyn had been stabbed 114 times. And if I remember from the first video, I was stuck on the fact that he said she was stabbed a horrific amount of times. And I was thinking like 20, 30. That's horrific to me. He stabbed her 114 times. Like, how long does it take to stab somebody that many times? How much stamina and strength does it take to stab somebody that many times? Like, how many stabs ago has she already passed away and he was still just stabbing her body? I just can't. It's unfathomable to me. And we're speaking about children, which makes it worse. A child stabbing another child this many times. Like, what type of anger are you possessing? What type of, I don't even know what the word for it is. Of those 114 stab wounds that Tristyn did suffer, 49 of those wounds were said to be defensive. They were on her hands and arms, also on like her head and face, where she was defending herself and most likely moving around, and he was, stabbing her in places where he did not want to stab her, or was not like aiming to stab her because of how she was moving and trying to protect herself. Also during the autopsy, they did find Tristyn's DNA on Aiden's body. Now, they didn't specify what type of DNA that was, but if you remember from the first press conference, they did note that she had not been sexually assaulted or abused. And they didn't, state after the autopsy that they found any findings of her being sexually abused. So I'm thinking maybe it was like touch DNA, sweat, something of that nature. Because if you're stabbing somebody that many times, I'm sure he worked up a sweat. And maybe sweat dropped onto her, or, saliva, anything, something of that nature. But they're standing firm on that she was not sexually assaulted or abused, which is a very small silver lining in this tragedy. So not only was Aiden's DNA found on Tristyn, but Tristyn's DNA was found on the pair of shoes that Aiden was seen carrying as he was walking back on that surveillance video. I said before, he was carrying a pair of sneakers in his hand. When they did search his home and collect his clothing and things, they also collected those pair of sneakers, and Tristyn's DNA was found on the sneakers. In the statement that the state attorney Larissa gave, he said that to say that this was a horrific crime could arguably be made as an understatement. And I wholeheartedly agree. Like, this is so far beyond horrific. It's uncomfortable to even talk about at this point. So we know that Fucci was initially charged. I can't talk tonight, y'all. I'm sorry. We know that Fucci was initially charged with second-degree murder. And there was a petition going around to have him, 1, charged with first-degree murder, and 2, tried as an adult. And they did state in the press conference that those charges would be pending, depending on the investigation and, like the effects of the crime. So after finding out, that Tristyn was stabbed so many times and how horrific, I can't think of a better word, of how horrible this crime was, they did decide to raise his charge up to first-degree murder and also to try him as an adult. And he was supposed to be arraigned on June 10th, which was just a few days ago, but he instead entered his plea early on the 3rd, I believe. He entered his plea of not guilty, which means he's going to forego that arraignment on the 10th, and then his court date is set for like July 26th, July 28th. Sometime at the end of July, the trial will actually take place, and hopefully he'll be found guilty, and then we have to go through sentencing. After he entered his plea of not guilty, they did deny him bond, and they placed him in a undisclosed adult facility, but they did note that being that he's still a child and being charged with an adult crime, he would be in some way separated from the adult offenders for his own safety, because he is still, a child, 14. There's nothing he could do in there. Those grown men decided to take advantage of him in some kind of way. The attorney that was initially representing Aiden Fucci decided to withdraw counsel. And they weren't able to get another lawyer for him, I guess not within the amount of time. So he is currently being represented by a public defender. And this public defender was the lawyer that he had present for his upgraded first-degree murder charge. And to me, that says something. Because when a lawyer is not willing to represent you, that means your case is unwinnable. Because lawyers will represent guilty people if they feel that they can get them off. Or, if it's a reasonable case to take. But the fact that he decided to remove himself from this case, to remove counsel to Aiden Fucci, that means a lot to me. I could be wrong, but it means something. I think it means something. Now, this is the update that I was most interested in, y'all, because it makes sense. Aiden's mother, Crystal Smith, has also been arrested. She's been arrested for tampering with evidence after turning herself over to authorities. So she allegedly washed a pair of bloody jeans that were worn by Fucci during the murder. So those clothes that they found in the home that he was seen on video wearing, that when they tested them, they had blood on them. She actually had washed those clothing or attempted to clean those clothing beforehand and then put them back in his room. And it's just like, well, Mom of the Year, why didn't you just get rid of them? What was the... That makes no sense. If you want to help your child, help them correctly. You should have burned it. But anywho, she received a $25,000 bond following her arrest. She was only in jail for a couple of hours before she was able to bond herself out, and now she's back at home awaiting her trial while her son is in prison. So this is from the official report of what occurred and caused her to be arrested. When the sheriff's office came to Fucci's house, they came and they did do a search warrant, but they also interviewed him. And being a minor, he had to have a parent present, and his mother was present for this interview that was given. And this is the very first interview. I'm sorry, so I lied. This is the first interview, not the one with the search warrant. This is the very first interview where he was interviewed the day. This is the very first interview that he had on the day that Tristyn was reported missing. So her body hadn't been found yet. And they were just, doing witness type interviews of people in the neighborhood, people that knew her, trying to find out any information to be able to find her. That was this interview. And his mother was present for the interview. And it says, following the interview, video surveillance from the home shows that Smith, the mother, went to her son's bedroom. She retrieved what appeared to be a pair of bloody jeans and took them to the bathroom and could be seen scrubbing them. She was also seen after scrubbing the jeans thoroughly, showing them to somebody that either has not been identified or could not be seen on camera. They didn't specify. They just said to another person. So I'm assuming it's somebody that they just have chosen not to identify, showing them to them, and it seems like she was showing it to them so they could inspect them, did I do a good enough job cleaning these? And then she folded them back up and placed them back into her son's room. So during a second interview, after this information comes out, after Tristyn's body is found, there's a second interview that precedes the search warrant. And this interview is at the sheriff's office. But just like the first interview, the mother is in the room because Aiden is still a minor. Now, once the sheriffs left the room, there is still audio and video that's rolling in the room, even though the police officers have left. And Smith is seen questioning Aiden about anything that could have been on his clothes. Just asking, could there have been anything on your clothes? And he was like, I don't know what. And she whispered to him, blood. She whispered blood. in the sheriff's office interrogation room. So of course, this gives them reason to believe that there are some bloody clothing in the house. They get a search warrant, go to the house, find the clothes that look like the clothes that were in the video, test them, and there's Tristyn's blood. They also tested the sink that they saw Smith washing the jeans in, and also found traces of Tristyn's blood in the sink. Okay, so this I'm going to read directly. This is a statement that Tristyn's family released after Aiden's charges were upgraded. They said, "We appreciate that today's outcome is directly the result of the thorough and comprehensive work from the St. Johns County's Sheriff's Office, along with the 7th District State Attorney's Office, as part of the initial steps to bring justice for Tristyn's murder. We would specifically like to recognize the Criminal Investigations Unit of the SJSO. We greatly appreciate the tremendous community outpouring from all parts of the world, particularly from those in St. John's that have helped from the Mother's Day search, the vigils, remembrances, and memorials." And they go on to thank other people or other entities that have been helpful to them during the time. And they also ask for privacy and peace while they continue to mourn Tristyn's absence. The family of Tristyn has been very low-key, and as I have been doing research into this case, because I look it up like every couple of days, but as I'm doing research, I'm seeing that a lot of people want the family to like say more and do more, and it's just like their child was viciously killed for no reason on Mother's Day. Like, what do you want these people to say or do? The statements they give are very gracious and thankful, and I really don't expect much more from them at all. I'm very much ready for I'm very much ready for Aiden's trial to start at the end of July. I really want to hear what he has to say. Something in me is telling me that he's going to use the insanity defense, and I feel like he may have something there, even if he's not like a psycho or a sociopath or something. I feel like there's some kind of trauma or something that's playing a part in his mental state, because it's just not normal behavior to lure someone out of their house in the middle of the night to stab them 114 times in the woods. There has to be something else in play here, and especially for a child of that age. 14 is like that puberty stage. Different emotions and hormones and all that kind of stuff is swirling around. I mean, I remember what it was like to be a teenager. Everything was so dramatic. Everything was in the world. It was like now or never. It was so extra to be a teenager. And I mean, it's just no telling what what prompted him to do this. And I'm not in any way defending his actions, but there's a reason for everything. Yes, he should go to prison. Yes, he should be tried as an adult. Yes, I think that he'll do it again. But I also know that there's a reason why this was done to begin with. And that's the one thing that I feel like America's justice system, whatever you call it, that's where we fail people. In other countries, they really try to get like to the root of the problem and actually rehabilitate people. And that's why they often have shorter jail sentences and things of that nature, but they also have less reoffenders, as I've been doing my research. America has the opposite problem. We have very long jail sentences for some people. Others get slaps on the wrist, but y'all know how that goes. But then they just sit behind bars doing God knows what back there, not growing, learning, changing, or anything, and they get out. And now they're just better criminals because they've been sitting up in the building with 500 other criminals learning how to do shit better. But actually giving therapy sessions and psychological reviews and stuff like that to all prisoners, not just the ones that are deemed criminally insane or incompetent to stand trial, would greatly benefit these people, especially the ones that are going to get out. Like, what's the point of doing 5 years and just sitting there? There's a better way to spend that time, in my opinion. Especially since my tax dollars paying for it, I feel like the least you could do is make sure when these people get out, they can reintegrate into society, like for the safety of us all. I mean, that brings back up Nico. Because how you let a man sit in solitary confinement for 2 years and then think he's just going to be ready to re-enter society? It doesn't make sense. But anywho, and now we wait. Hopefully we can get some answers to this. I know Tristyn's family probably don't care about no answers. They want justice, and I know that they will get justice for their daughter. I'm glad that Aiden is being tried as an adult. I'm glad he is being charged with first-degree murder. And I'm not surprised that his mother is being charged with accessory after the fact or aiding and abetting, whatever she's charged with. I'm not at all surprised. I do wonder where his father is. I thought he made like a couple small statements, not really saying anything of value, in my opinion. But it seems like he's not in the home and also not too involved in Aiden's life. I wonder what he thinks about this. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this update, short video for today. Let me know if you agree, disagree, like, share, subscribe, comment. If you didn't like it, hit the dislike button and talk shit if you got to. Be great, be you. See you soon.